As women of color and women with disabilities, what have all of you done to stay resilient in this time? I mean, you're reinventing yourselves, you're staying resilient. We had one question from one of our attendees wanting to know, how have you done that? How have you reinvented yourselves? How have you stayed resilient? Kimberly, how have you done it?
Yeah, I think for me, it starts with the notion of, no matter who I work for, I always know who I serve, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just that grounding, has always just kind of kept me to put things in perspective. And I think oftentimes when it's about the title and the role, you can kind of lose yourself. And I think in these environments, when you're constantly being faced with, it literally feels like something coming at you every day. That sense of self, even though it sounds so cliche, is what gets you through, right? It gives you, Lauren mentioned, the power of using your voice. It gives you, kind of that extra fuel when you're like, this is too important, I can't stop. Because there's a bigger why here, and I think for me that has been such a source. To kind of just continue to push through. And then, I think, we all have, ideally should have, support systems and our own ecosystems where, you can just pick up the phone and scream and curse and do all the things. And, I have kind of what I call my own like little kitchen cabinet, and bounce things off of, and I work with them. I hire many of them. I hire many of my friends, and sometimes with people would look at me like, she's hiring her friends. I'm like, I'm hiring the best people in the industry that yes, I happen to know. So and being very unapologetic about that, and knowing that I have the results. And so I think it is that community, and tapping into that community when you need it. Early morning, late nights, I think is so important. But I think we've got to have a sense of who we are, and we know sometimes these organizations can eat you up, and whatever that looks like for you as an individual, you got to figure that out, because I do think that is some of the things that especially with women. I mean, I think Dee said it all, in the sense of what is being asked and the expectation of us. And the most one of the great words is no. Like no. And being able to do that. And I think, and I'm not naive, I know that takes time, and it depends on sometimes where you are in the organization. But I also say, I think, at the end of the day, we know we're all incredibly smart, capable women. We're putting points on the boards, we're driving results, and you got to be comfortable with that, to use that power to then get what you want, and have some of those hard conversations. And so I do think that you have to have kind of that confidence to say, I think there's a better and more efficient way to do this. I think here's some of the things that we can and should be doing, and here's the rationale why. And you don't back down from that.
Thank you, Kimberly. Helen, how about you? How are you staying resilient? How are you reinventing yourself?
Well, fortunately, I at this point in my life, I am who I am. I don't believe in reinvention. And also, resilience is not a nice to have, it's a must have. I am somebody that, just by the nature of who I am, just from a personal perspective, how I was raised, and just because if you look at me, you see I am a Black woman, and I've had to fight and slay many dragons in my life, in my career. And as Kimberly mentioned, also you have to have the right people around you, and you also have to be grounded. But resilience, even iron can wear out. And this has been a particularly challenging time for me the last few months in particular. And I am just amazed when you as a person, as a woman, as an individual, you kind of have these sort of moments of vulnerability and challenge and crisis. That's when you know who's really in your corner and who's not, and who really is there for you, or who is really just there to see what you can do for them. And so I really appreciate the clarity and the transparency that these last few months really this last year and a half has shown me. I will always be a fighter as long as I have breath in my body. I will fight. I will fight for my clients, my colleagues, and do the job that I've been asked to do. But I really would say to everybody that's watching this is be supportive of people in your life, professionally, particularly personally. You never know what somebody is going through. And sometimes your agenda or your objective can't be a priority right now. Like it's got to, nope, nothing, it's going to be okay. And the work is so important, and try to just find that balance, find the right mix of people or person. I don't like a big crowd. So I have like the same 4 friends that I've had my whole life pretty much. But the reality is that, resilience is not something that we have an option to not be. If you don't have resilience, then there's no hope. And I strongly believe that regardless of with your last ounce of strength, use it and figure out what you need, vitamins, the Bible, your husband, your wife, whomever, to give you, re-energize you so that you could get up the next day and be like a boxer and just be, like my dad famously told us, the world is made of wolves and sheep. Sheep eat wolves and super wolves eat wolves. And he told us, I didn't raise you to be a sheep. So that's who we are. And not to go around biting people's faces off or being ruthless, but being strong in yourself and who you are, and being able and willing to fight when you have to and stand up for yourself.
Thanks, Helen. Lauren, how do you stay resilient?
Sorry, my dog keeps on barking, so I go on mute. I stay resilient by getting out of my own head. I think, like you said, Helen, I think that's so important. And a lot of times I'm in my own head, and your own head can make things a lot worse than in actuality, right? And so for me, what I did, because I still am spending time inside, is working out. I thought it was really important for me to work out during this time. But I think that it's also like, take a breath, like go and look in the mirror and just smile, because whatever is happening, at work, especially because, I think somebody said, like, you're working 7 days a week now, you're constantly working, you're on Zoom. People think that you can work 24 hours a day because you're at home. Is get outside, take a walk, like create a routine, create something that you weren't able to do before, and then live into that and say, you know what, I've been doing this and I'm going to continue to do this because it's good for my own mental health. For me, it was more working out. For others, it's, taking a walk around the block. Like we had people that started swimming, like whatever it may be. I think it's so important during this time is to get out of the 4 walls that are around you, especially those walls that you're creating in your own mind. Because, if you really think about, on some level, every one of us on this call is privileged. Because we're getting to do amazing things like this and getting to meet amazing people. But if we really think about what's outside there in the world, our lives and our world is not so bad. If we look at what's happening in India right now with COVID, I mean, they are being stricken by it so awfully. And, just think about that, get out of your own head, think of ways that you can help others. And I think that, for me, it was to really find my voice and to say that no matter how many videos I do, whatever I'm going to do professionally, I'm really going to own my own passion project. Mm-hmm. And that to me has been something that I launched a new website. I'm launching these new talks. Like I'm doing stuff that makes me feel like I'm giving back. And I, overall, I think that, my resilience is giving back to people and using my words to help them think about their lives and just knowing that it's not so bad. It can get better. It's easy to get better, or it's easier, I should say, to get better.
Thanks, Lauren. No, it's true. It is easier to get better. And Dee, last but not least, how have you continued to remain resilient and perhaps reinvent yourself?
I mean, I would say at one point in the early part of the pandemic, I was completely overdoing it. I was working 24/7. I would roll out of bed, you know, sort of get on my phone until my son woke up. And then, you know, while he was sort of homeschooling, I would deal with that. And then, you know, try and work in between. And then when he was in bed, I would sort of work, you know, through to the early hours. And it was, you know, it was actually not a very good situation. And the only way I was able to pull myself out of that was through sort of forcible reminders. So I sort of, you know, added all these apps to my phone, and I had this sort of Apple Watch that would tell me to breathe, you know, every hour, or to stand up and take a walk. Like I literally had to force myself to pull myself out of work mode, or, you know, so, you know, that was, but that sort of helped sort of create new, better habits eventually in me. So that certainly helped. I have a weekly call with one of my closest girlfriends where we just kind of talk through everything, professionally and personally. That's really helped. I started exercising again, which I'd sort of given up for 10 years. So that's sort of a welcome reintroduction. I had some very hard conversations with my partner. I don't know if it's worked yet, or remains to be seen, about sort of distribution of sort of household chores. So we will see. But I would say above all, you know, tapping into community was the thing that kept me sane. And I think that I've always had different communities I turn to for different things. You know, I'm a founder, I have a great founder group. I'm a mom, I have a great mom group, you know, and you can sort of really lean into the specific things that you are trying to navigate with, you know, with those specific groups. So I think it's always really valuable to really have those kind of different circles around you that serve the sort of different elements of who you are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dee. It's amazing how so many negative things that have impacted each and every one of us on the panel, and the people watching have just, everything's been turned to something positive. And that's really important to keep in mind, especially for those who sometimes want to wallow in that negativity, you know, why me, why is this happening, so forth and so on. There's always that silver lining in there somehow, some way, or you can be resilient, as how all of you ladies have mentioned.